is change in volatility, change in delta due to change in volatility. We wrote a whole thread on this. Okay, it's up in the technical section. Very detailed. The thing to realize with Vanna is that Vanna, if volatility is changing, Vanna rears its head. Now, there's a couple things that I'm just going to describe here just as we wrap up here. As volatility goes from a low number, say VIX 13, 14, 15, towards VIX 20, volatility is expanding. What that means for us in the SPX is that deltas are changing. There's no question about that. And you can see we've got this, right-hand plane and this left-hand plane. Typically, when volatility is expanding, price is dropping. Volatility is a knife that cuts both ways. But typically, when volatility is expanding, price is dropping. All right. So effectively, what we're going to see is we're going to see more and more negative deltas added to that side of the book. But as the volatility goes up, it gets wider and wider. It's called a dispersion. And what this means, and it gets, the magnitude actually comes down. It gets smaller and smaller. We're taking that same energy and we're spreading it across more and more strikes as volatility goes up. We don't really care about Vanna when price is going up. We don't. Others out there in the world will tell you you do. You don't. You really don't. That's not your problem. Your problem is delta. When you want Vanna to work for you, I'm going to give you a scenario, and we wrote about it in the technical questions area, and I want everyone to go read this. But here's a scenario that I want everyone to really think of, because this is where the market is right about now. And this could apply. We could get a Vanna rally. Hasn't started, but I want to kind of lay out the scenario because we are literally, Monday could start this process very, very soon. We have a high VIX. We've got that wide dispersion of numbers that you see here in this. You can see we've got to the left hand below us, we've got 2 million, whatever they're denominated, and I'm not going to go into the details. And on the right hand side, where the calls would be if we were starting to really start moving up, we've got a positive number, right? So I want everyone to kind of play this game with me. In order to get a rally, a couple things have to happen. First of all, we have to start closing some of those in the money puts above us, right? The fear component. Those put holders have got to get scared and slam their long negative deltas shut. They got to remove them from the book, which will force our book higher, right? So that forcing our book higher, making our book longer, forces the dealer book shorter, and that starts propelling us upward. Also, we want to see the DBH command. We want to see the presence of right-hand plane deltas going in. We want to see on a day-over-day basis, we want to see how that is starting to evolve. We want to see those calls go in. When we start adding calls, a couple things are going to happen to the overall structure. You're going to start seeing volatility drop. Because now we're getting a counterbalance to the puts that are going in. When you put calls in and you put puts in, the more calls you put in, you now start to balance where the market is, and you start getting some volatility dampening out of the market. When you start getting that volatility out of the market, you're going to start seeing the VIX and the VIX futures start to come down a little bit. Vanna is going to rear its head. What happens, remember we were talking about that dispersion where we're going to take that energy of Vanna and we're going to spread it as the volatility goes up. Now, as volatility starts coming down, we're going to start concentrating that. But we're closing the puts below us because those guys and gals are thrown in the towel. Their puts are going to be worthless if they leave them on the table. And we're opening calls above us. Why is this important? Look on nestat, what's in the right-hand plane, positive deltas. As I start adding long calls to the right-hand plane, I'm amplifying deltas. As volatility collapses and I add basically gasoline on the fire, I'm effectively adding long deltas to the book at the Vanna rate. This in combination with that fear, in combination with the greed. Oh, okay, the bottom's in. Everyone calls the bottom. It's because we've got the balance of the puts and the calls, and all of a sudden we start taking off. When we start taking off, Vanna's going to be our friend. Because as we collapse, we're now going to take all that wide energy and we're going to start shrinking it. We're going to take it away from the wings and we're going to amplify, just like that balloon we did with gamma. We're going to start bringing it in and it's going to amplify all those new calls that are going in. And that's going to shoot us upward also. So pay attention to that. Vanna by itself, we don't pay a lot of attention to Vanna. There are other services out, excuse me, out there that do. Excuse me. I think Vanna is important. As you can see, I just got very animated. But it's only important at certain times. Just like gamma is only important at certain times. Delta rules the roost and we can't turn off time. So our priorities here are to look and see what's happening. As volatility starts expanding and contracting, you want to pay attention. As prices move around, you want to pay attention. Time is always present. Deltas rule the roost. Fear and greed. So I'm going to leave it at